Before we dive into this chilling tale, make sure to hit like and subscribe for more spine-tingling stories. You won't want to miss the true, dark accounts I'm about to share. I can't sleep. I don't know how long I've been staring at the ceiling, but my mind keeps running in circles. The room. No, this place is wrong. I knew something felt off the moment I stepped in here. It's not the kind of hotel you'd want to stay in. It has that old damp smell, the kind you'd expect from abandoned buildings or forgotten homes. The lights flicker from time to time, and I swear I can hear distant footsteps in the hallway, even though no one's here. But it's not just that, it's the feeling. There's something about room 302 that I can't shake off. Something that feels like it's waiting, watching. I didn't want to stay here, but I had no choice. I came here to escape from everything. The accident, the silence, the empty house. I just needed some time alone to clear my head. I thought a few nights in a random hotel, far away from home, would help. A fresh start maybe. But the minute I stepped into this place, I felt it, like ... It was pulling me in. I can't even explain. It wasn't the kind of place where you'd want to hang around, let alone sleep. I asked the manager about it when I checked in. He didn't say much, just pointed me to room 302 without looking me in the eye. I don't think he wanted me to stay here, but he had no choice. He couldn't say no. I could feel it. The door creaked when I opened it. The air inside was thick, musty. But what made my heart race wasn't the smell, no. It was the feeling, the oppressive weight in the air that settled on my chest the moment I walked in. There was no turning back now. I tossed my bag onto the bed and looked around, trying to find something familiar, something that would make me feel like I wasn't completely alone. I should have left, but I didn't. I thought maybe the room just felt like this because I was tired, because I was still processing what happened. Maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. But even now, as I sit here in this room, I can't shake the feeling that it's not just my mind, it's something else. Something that doesn't belong. I need to calm down. It's just a room. Just a place, right? But every time I look at the mirror, I swear I see something in the reflection that wasn't there a second ago. A shadow. Or maybe it's just the lighting. Yeah, that's probably it. The light's flickering again. I hate it when that happens. I should try to sleep. I really should. But the moment I close my eyes, my thoughts are louder than before. I keep thinking about my mom, about that day. The accident. I don't know how to move on from that ... I don't even know if I can. I hear something now. The soft sound of what? Could be a lullaby. Is that music? I didn't bring any music with me. No, it's not possible. It's faint, but it's there. My heart's pounding. I have to check. My breath is shaky, but I don't want to look. I don't want to know what's causing it. I slowly get up from the bed, and with every step I take towards the corner of the room where the sound is coming from, my heart races faster. My eyes scan the dark corners, the shadows that stretch out in all directions. I should have left earlier, but I stayed. I stayed because I thought it would help. I thought maybe I'd find some peace here. But now I'm not sure if peace is something that can be found. The sound of the lullaby stops, and I freeze. I don't know why, but I feel like I'm being watched. I stand there in the dark, not moving, just listening. Then, just as I'm about to turn back, I hear it, a whisper, clear as day. Catherine. It's my name. I didn't imagine it. It was a soft, familiar voice. I know that voice. It's my mother's voice. I'm not going crazy. I know I'm not, but that doesn't explain how the hell my mother's voice is in this room, in a place I've never been before. And that doesn't explain why I'm standing here, feeling like the walls are closing in, like the room is tightening its grip on me. I don't know what to do. What should I do? Should I run? Should I call someone? But then again, who would I call? Would anyone believe me? Could I even explain what's happening? I've heard of haunted places before. You hear rumors, you hear stories, but I didn't believe in them. I never did. Until now, I can't leave. Not now. There's something here. And I have to figure it out. But how? I take a deep breath and slowly turn around, my back to the wall now. I need to calm down. It's probably just my imagination. Maybe I should go to sleep. Maybe when I wake up, everything will be fine. But deep down, I know that won't happen. I know something is wrong. Something's very wrong with room 302. And I don't know how much longer I can stay here before it gets worse. I couldn't sleep. Not after what I heard. Not after that whisper. The room felt heavier now, like the walls themselves were closing in on me. The air was thick with something. I couldn't name. I pulled the blanket up, but it didn't help. I kept staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of it, but the more I tried, the more my mind raced. What happened? Was I hearing things? Was my grief finally taking its toll? But no, it wasn't that simple. It couldn't be. My mom's voice was so clear, so real. Catherine. How could I possibly imagine that? The memories of her kept flooding my mind, the way she used to hum that lullaby to me when I was a child. I could see her face as if she were standing right in front of me, that soft smile of hers, but that was impossible. She was gone. She'd been gone for weeks now. I sat up slowly, my feet touching the cold wooden floor. The silence in the room felt suffocating, like everything had stopped moving, frozen in time. I glanced at the clock. It was past 2 a.m., but I wasn't sleepy anymore. I was wide awake, my heart pounding in my chest. The room was completely still, but then I heard it again. The faint sound of that damn lullaby, as soft as before. I looked around in panic, trying to locate the source. The sound was coming from nowhere, but it felt like it was coming from within the walls. I stood up quickly, the cold air biting at my skin as I shuffled towards the door. My hands were shaking, and I didn't know if it was from fear or just from the weight of everything. I reached for the handle, but just before I could turn it, I froze. The faint music stopped. Just like that, I exhaled, feeling both relieved and confused. I was crazy. It was just my mind, my grief, the stress. But then something changed. I felt it. The temperature in the room dropped, and I could see my breath in front of me, swirling in the cold air. That was not normal. I stepped back, unsure of what to do. The air felt heavier than before. The room had this eerie presence, like it was alive in its own way. My heart hammered louder. I thought of running, grabbing my things and leaving, but something held me back. It was like the room was calling to me. The urge to stay, to understand what was happening, was too strong. Then, suddenly I heard it again. A voice, clear as day. Catherine. I spun around. The whisper was so close. My eyes darted to the mirror. It was the only reflective surface in the room. For a split second, I could have sworn I saw her, my mother, standing behind me, her face pale and expressionless. I blinked, and she was gone. I stumbled back, my chest tightening. This wasn't real. It couldn't be real. But everything felt so real. The voice, the coldness, the way the air felt like it was thick with something. Something I couldn't see but could feel. I walked to the mirror, my feet heavy on the floor. I didn't want to, but I had to. I had to know if I was losing my mind or if something else was happening. The room didn't feel like it was part of the world anymore. It felt like it was a place between places, stuck in time. Stuck in something. I touched the surface of the mirror, cold. My fingers left faint prints behind, as if the glass was absorbing my touch. Suddenly, the lights flickered again, and for a brief second, I thought I saw something move in. The reflection. No, not something. Someone. It was my mother again. Her face was different now. She wasn't smiling. She looked troubled. Her eyes were wide with fear, like she was trying to tell me something, but I couldn't hear her. I couldn't understand. I backed away from the mirror, my heart racing. I wasn't imagining this. This was happening. Something in this room, something tied to me was reaching out. The connection to my mother felt so raw, so real. But why? What did she want from me? What was happening in this room? I didn't know what to do anymore. I could feel my chest tightening again. The room felt colder now, as if the walls were closing in. The air was thick, and every time I took a breath, it felt like I was suffocating. I looked around at the bed, at the old furniture, the cracked windows, the dark corners of the room. But nothing was moving. Nothing but my own fear. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone or something was watching me. The silence in the room was deafening. Every noise seemed amplified in the stillness. I felt paranoid. My breath quickened. I tried to focus, but all I could hear was the soft whispering of my mother's voice, calling my name. Catherine, . It was coming from behind me. I whipped around, my pulse racing, and saw nothing, no one. But there was something in the air, something that felt wrong, and that's when I realized . I wasn't alone in this room. I never had been. I heard the music again, that same lullaby, this time louder than ever. And then, all at once, the whispering stopped. The room was silent, but not in a comforting way. In a way that made my skin crawl. The room felt more alive now, and it was closing in on me. Something was waiting. Something wanted me to stay, but I wasn't sure I could anymore. The silence was suffocating. It was so quiet now, too quiet, that I could hear the pounding of my own heart. I wanted to scream, but my voice felt trapped somewhere deep inside me, like it couldn't escape. I looked around, trying to convince myself that nothing was wrong, that I was just tired, maybe stressed. But the cold air, the eerie silence, it didn't feel like just stress. Something had shifted in this room, something I couldn't explain. I needed to leave. I had to get out of here. The longer I stayed, the more I felt like I was losing control. My head was spinning, my thoughts colliding with each other, making it harder to think clearly. I grabbed my things, desperate to leave, but then my eyes landed on the mirror again. I couldn't look away. There was something there, something. I couldn't see at first. It was like the mirror was calling to me, pulling me in. A shadow in the corner, dark and flickering like it didn't belong. I blinked, and it was gone, but I didn't move. I stayed rooted in place, staring at the mirror, my breath caught in my throat. For a brief moment, I thought I saw my mother. Again, but this time her face wasn't filled with love or comfort. It was twisted with something else, something darker. Her eyes were wide with fear, her mouth slightly open, like she was trying to scream but couldn't. "Mom," I whispered, my voice barely audible. The whisper echoed in my mind, but the room the room didn't let me speak anymore. It felt like the walls themselves were pressing in, blocking me from any escape. Suddenly, I heard a loud bang. My heart stopped. I spun around so fast I almost lost my balance. But there was nothing there. No sign of anything out of the ordinary. Just the still, empty room. I walked to the window and looked outside. The world beyond seemed so distant, so unreachable. It was like I was trapped here, in this room. In this moment, I glanced back at the door. Could I leave? Could I really just walk out and forget all of this? But when I reached for the door handle, it wouldn't budge. It was locked. No. I didn't lock it. I knew I hadn't. I could feel the panic rising again, a tight knot forming in my chest. My mind was racing, but my body felt frozen. I had to get out. I had to get out of here before whatever this was, whatever she was, dragged me in deeper. Double quotes, Catherine. I froze. The voice came again, soft and slow. But this time it wasn't. My mother's voice. It wasn't even close. It was deep, raspy, like someone was trying to choke on their words. I turned slowly, my eyes darting around the room. I didn't want to see it, but I had to. And then I saw her. Not my mother, but the woman, the one I had heard about when I checked in. The woman from the hotel's dark past. She was standing by the window, her face pale, her eyes hollow, staring at me with an intensity that made my blood run cold. I stepped back, but the air seemed to press against me, holding me in place. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. She reached out her hand, and the temperature in the room dropped again, colder than before. Her fingers were long, bony, and as she came closer, I could feel a wave of dread wash over me. It was the kind of fear that made your skin crawl, the kind that sank deep into your bones. She wasn't a ghost, not like the kind I had imagined. She was something darker, something angry. I opened my mouth to scream, but no sound came out. The room was closing. In again, the walls shrinking. Her fingers brushed against my cheek, ice cold, sending a shiver down my spine. I gasped, my breath fogging up the air, but her grip on me didn't loosen. "You shouldn't have come here." Her voice, though cold and cracked, was unmistakable. It was the voice of the woman who had died here, in this very room. She spoke in fragments, her words barely forming, like she was struggling to hold on to her own existence. Her face twisted into a grimace of pain, and I could see her mouth moving, but no words came out. The room was suffocating me, and I couldn't understand what she wanted. I needed to get out. I had to get out, but the door was still locked. My only escape was the window, but it was high up, too high for me to climb out. My chest tightened with panic. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think straight. Her hand was still on my face, colder than anything I had ever felt in my life. My body was frozen. I couldn't escape. She leaned closer, her face just inches from mine. Her breath smelled like decay, like something long dead. "You ... need to forgive ... Her words were barely audible, but they felt like they were tearing through me. I didn't understand. Forgive? What did she mean? Suddenly, the room went black. The light bulb above flickered one last time before it went out completely, and I was left in the darkness with her. The cold, the pressure in the room, the shadows, everything intensified. I tried to scream again, but the words didn't leave my throat. There was nothing left but darkness and the sound of my own heartbeat, pounding in my ears. I was trapped. I don't know how long I was in the dark. It felt like hours, or maybe it was just minutes. The only thing I was sure of was that I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The air felt thick, like it was pressing against me from all sides. It wasn't just cold anymore. It was ... suffocating. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my chest, louder than it should have been. I wanted to cry out, but the words felt stuck in my throat, heavy and thick. Every time I tried to speak, it was like the darkness swallowed me whole. It felt like the room was alive, shifting around me, closing in tighter, tightening its grip on me. I felt dizzy, like the walls were spinning, bending, warping, and then, out of nowhere, the light flickered back on. I gasped, a sharp breath that cut through the silence. But the moment I opened my eyes, I froze. The room wasn't the same. It had ... changed. The walls had dark stains on them, now damp, reddish-black marks that looked like they'd been there for years. The furniture had shifted too. The bed was no longer where it had been, and the mirror ... it was cracked. Shattered, in fact. But the reflection still lingered in the broken glass. The woman was there. Her eyes locked with mine. She was closer now. I stumbled back, my heart racing. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. My legs felt weak, like they were made of rubber. I looked around frantically, trying to find something, anything that could explain this. But there was nothing. No logical explanation. Only the room, her, and the suffocating darkness that pressed in closer. I could hear her breathing now, soft, slow, like she was waiting for something. I could feel her presence, like she was hovering just behind me. I turned, my body shaking, but there was nothing. Just the cold air and the silence. Then the whisper came again. "You shouldn't have stayed." Her voice was like a snake's hiss, low and dangerous. It made my skin crawl, sending shivers all the way down my spine. She was here, in the room with me. I could feel her, even if I couldn't see her. I backed into the corner, clutching my arms around my chest like that would protect me. But the room wasn't the same anymore. The floorboards were creaking, and I could swear I heard footsteps moving in the darkness, circling me. "You didn't listen." "No one ever listens, ... Her voice echoed in my head, louder now, more insistent. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to block it out, but it was no use. The voice, the whispers, the feeling of her, everything was too much. It was like I couldn't escape. There was no escape. I opened my eyes again, my breath shallow, panicked. And then I saw it. On the far wall, there was a door. But it wasn't the door I had seen earlier. It was ... different. It was older, rusted. The wood was warped and splintered, and the hinges creaked like they hadn't been used in years. But I didn't hesitate. I ran for it. My hands were shaking so badly that I could hardly grip the handle, but I yanked it open, desperate to get out. The light from the hallway spilled into the room, but as soon as I stepped forward, the hallway disappeared. There was no hallway, no exit, just more of the same dark, oppressive room. I turned around, breathing heavily, my eyes darting to the door that had once been my way out. It was gone, just like the hallway, just like the world outside. The room was closing in again. The walls were moving, pressing toward me with an unnatural force, as if the entire hotel was alive, trying to swallow me whole. I could feel the weight of something heavy in the air. The woman's presence was suffocating, pressing against me, trying to pull me into the darkness. "I told you," she whispered again, her voice now low and guttural. It felt like her voice was inside my head, her words swirling in my thoughts, growing louder, closer. I couldn't think. My mind was racing, and all I could hear was her. All I could feel was her. Her cold fingers brushing my skin, her breath on my neck, her eyes piercing through me. And then I heard it. A soft knock at the door. I froze, my blood turning to ice. It was faint at first, like a whisper against the walls. But then it came again, louder. A series of knocks, slow and deliberate. I turned toward the door, dread sinking deep in my stomach. I didn't want to answer. I didn't want to open that door, but something about it. Something about those knocks felt familiar. I took a hesitant step toward the door, my heart pounding in my chest. The room was so quiet now. Too quiet. The whispers had stopped. The cold had stopped. Everything felt like it was holding its breath, waiting. The knock came again. I gripped the doorknob, my hand trembling as I slowly twisted it. The door creaked open, just a crack. The hallway was empty, but there was something. Someone standing. At the far end of it, I couldn't see their face, but I could feel them. I could feel their eyes on me, even though I couldn't see them. And then, the figure moved, slowly, deliberately toward me. My heart stopped in my chest. It was the woman. She was smiling, but it wasn't a smile. It was something worse. And then, in the distance, I heard another sound, a soft, familiar lullaby. But this time, it was different. It was wrong. It wasn't my mother's song anymore. It was something else, something dark, something that belonged to this place. And then, I heard the door slam shut behind me. I couldn't breathe. The moment the door slammed shut, everything went dead silent again. The lullaby stopped. The footsteps stopped. The whispers, the cold air, everything that had been consuming me, vanished. But in its place, something far worse settled into the room. A deep, suffocating stillness that felt like it was waiting. Waiting for something. Waiting for me. I reached for the door handle, but this time it didn't feel like a door anymore. It felt like a wall, like there was no escape at all. My fingers dug into the wood, desperate, but it was as though the door had become one with the room, a part of the nightmare that refused to let go. I jerked at the handle again, harder this time, but nothing moved. It didn't budge. I backed away slowly, my heart racing in my chest. My mind couldn't catch up with what was happening. This wasn't real. It couldn't be real. My mom was gone. The woman. This whole hotel. It was all a nightmare, a horrible dream that I had to wake up from. I closed my eyes, trying to focus on my breathing, trying to push the panic back down. And then, I heard it, the softest of whispers, like a breath against my ear, barely audible at first. But then it grew louder, clearer. You can't leave. I spun around, eyes wide, searching the room, my breath quickening with every passing second. She was here. I could feel her. Her presence was so strong now, like it was in the walls, in the air itself. I couldn't escape it. I couldn't escape her. I looked at the mirror. The shards were still scattered on the floor, but there was something in the reflection that wasn't there before. The woman was there. And she was no longer just standing in the background, lurking. She was right in front of me. Her face was inches from mine. Her eyes wide open, staring right into me with an intensity that made me feel like she could see every dark thought, every secret buried deep inside me that I couldn't move. My body was frozen, like I was trapped in her gaze, unable to break free. You can't leave, Catherine. Her voice was no longer soft. It was sharp, forceful. It sent chills down my spine, and I could feel my knees weakening, threatening to give out beneath me. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. My mouth felt dry, my throat tight, like my voice had been stolen from me. I reached for my phone. My fingers were numb, trembling as I fumbled for it in my pocket. I needed to call for help. I needed to get out. But when I turned on the screen, the only thing that showed was the reflection in the mirror. My reflection, except it wasn't just me anymore. Behind me, the woman was standing, her mouth twisted into a grotesque smile. Her skin was pale, almost translucent, and I could see the faint outline of something darker beneath it, like her. Very flesh was rotting. I turned around, but she wasn't there. Only the empty room, only the cracked mirror. I felt sick. My stomach twisted in knots. I was losing my mind. You're mine now. Her voice echoed through the room, and the temperature dropped again. I could see my breath misting in the air as I backed away, trying to find the strength to move. But the room felt smaller now. The walls, the ceiling, they were pressing down on me, closing in with each passing second. My head felt light, and the pressure in my chest kept building, like the very air was pushing me into the ground. I stumbled toward the bed, my legs unsteady. Beneath me, I had to find something to fight with, anything to protect myself. I grabbed the lamp, the first thing within reach, and swung it toward the mirror. The glass shattered, but still, the woman stood there, her smile widening as the shards flew through the air. I closed my eyes again, trying to steady myself. But the sound of the glass shattering wasn't enough to drown out the whispers, the laughter, the horrible lullaby that was now playing so loud. I could feel it vibrating through my chest dot, and then I heard it. A soft knock at the door. I turned toward it, heart hammering in my chest. I didn't want to look. I didn't want to know what was on the other side, but I had to. I had to see. I walked toward the door, my hand shaking as I reached for the handle once again. This time, it gave. The door creaked open slowly, and I stepped out into the hallway. But this wasn't the same hallway I had seen earlier. The air was thick with dust, and the walls were covered in dark stains, just like the room I had left behind. The floor beneath my feet creaked, groaning under the weight of something heavy. The faint sound of music filled the air, but it wasn't the lullaby anymore. It was something different, something wrong. I looked down the hallway, trying to find a way out. But the hallway stretched on forever, twisting into shadows like a tunnel that didn't have an end. And then, from the darkness, I saw her. She was standing at the far end of the hallway, just like before. But this time, she wasn't smiling, she was crying. Tears ran down her pale face, but there was something about her expression that made it worse, something about the way she was watching me, waiting for me to understand. I couldn't look away. I couldn't move. My feet felt like they were glued to the floor, and all I could do was watch as she took a step forward. And then, the hallway shifted. It wasn't a trick of the light. The walls. The floor. Everything around me began to warp, like the hotel was folding in on itself, pulling me deeper into its darkness. I tried to scream, but the sound never came. The woman reached out her hand, her long pale fingers stretching toward me. And as I looked at her, I finally understood. She wasn't just a ghost. She was a warning for anyone who came into this hotel, into this room. A warning for anyone who thought they could leave, but it was too late for me. There was no escape now. I don't remember when I stopped running. The hallway twisted around me, stretching and shifting like a living thing. The walls were closing in on me, suffocating me, until I felt like I was drowning in the very air. My feet barely touched the ground. My legs felt like they were moving in slow motion, and the shadows were chasing me, pushing me forward, urging me to keep going, even though I had no idea where I was going. I turned every corner, desperate to find something, anything that might lead me to an exit, but every path I took led me deeper into the maze. The dim light flickered overhead, casting eerie shadows that seemed to shift and move as I passed. The woman, she was still there. I could feel her eyes on me, even though I never turned around to look. Her presence was so strong, so cold, that I didn't need to see her to know she was close. The sound of her footsteps, slow and deliberate, echoed through the hallway, but whenever I turned, I saw nothing. Only the emptiness, the blackness stretching. Before me, Catherine. Her voice was a whisper that slithered under my skin, curling around my thoughts, dragging me back to the place I was trying to escape. I didn't want to listen. I didn't want to feel her anymore, but she was relentless. You can't escape, I wanted to cry. My throat felt raw, but the tears wouldn't come. The hallway grew darker, the lights overhead flickering and buzzing, casting long, twisted shadows that danced on the walls like ghosts of the past. I ran faster, pushing my legs harder, even though every part of me screamed to stop. But I couldn't stop, not yet. Not when I knew she was behind me. Then, the hallway changed again. The floor beneath me felt different, sinking, unstable, like it was shifting beneath my feet. I stumbled, barely catching myself before I hit the ground. And when I looked up, I saw it. A door. Not just any door. The door, room 302. It was standing there, at the end of the hallway, bathed in a sickly yellow light. I froze. I couldn't move. My mind screamed at me to turn around, to run the other way. But my body wouldn't listen. Something in me, something deep inside, was drawn to it. Drawn to the door. You have to go back. The voice was close now, too close. My pulse raced, and I turned slowly, every fiber of my being telling me to run. But I couldn't. I couldn't tear my eyes away from the door. My hand reached out before I even knew what I was doing, and I grasped the cold, tarnished handle. The moment my fingers touched it, the air around me changed. The temperature dropped so quickly that I could see my breath in front of me, clouding the air with every exhale. The ground beneath me groaned, as if the building itself was alive. Aware of my presence, I hesitated for just a second. I knew what I was doing. I knew it was wrong. But it didn't matter. I opened the door. The room was dark, almost too dark to see anything. But I could feel it. The weight of the air in the room was different, heavier, thicker. The very walls seemed to pulse with something dark, something alive. I stepped inside, and the door slammed shut behind me with a force that shook the floor. I spun around, but the door, it was gone. No handle, no lock. Just an empty space like. The door had never been there at all. My heart pounded in my chest as I looked around the room. The walls were covered in peeling wallpaper, and the furniture was old, covered in dust and cobwebs. It was as if no one had stepped foot in here for decades. And yet, I could feel it. The presence. The woman. I could feel her in the walls, in the very floor beneath me. I could hear her breathing, feel her watching me from the shadows, her presence suffocating, wrapping around me like a cold, tightening rope. I turned, my breath shallow, my chest tight. There, in the far corner of the room, something moved. It was her, but she wasn't just standing anymore. She was sitting, her figure hunched over in the shadows, her long, pale fingers curled around the armrest of an old chair. Her face was hidden in the darkness, but I could see the faint outline of her. Her head tilted toward me, waiting for me to come closer. I didn't move. My feet felt glued to the floor, like they were stuck in place, unable to escape. My heart was thudding in my chest, and every instinct in my body screamed at me to run, to get out. But I couldn't. Not anymore. I was trapped. Trapped in this room with her. You shouldn't have come here. Her voice was low, but I heard it clearly, echoing through the room. It was like a curse, a warning, a sentence. I didn't want to look at her, but my eyes were drawn to her, pulled by some invisible force. I stepped forward, slowly, cautiously, but my body moved against my will. It was like I was walking through a dream, heavy, slow, and out of my control. As I got closer, I saw her face. Her skin was pale, almost translucent, like it had been drained of all color, and her eyes were empty, hollow sockets staring back at me, lifeless and cold. I couldn't look away. She was crying. Tears ran down her cheeks, but they weren't tears of sorrow. They were tears of anger, of rage. And her mouth was moving, but no sound came out. It was like she was trying to speak, trying to say something, but the words were trapped in the air between us. Suddenly, she stood up, her movements jerky, unnatural. She reached out toward me with her long skeletal hands, and I felt the air around me grow colder, the room growing darker, tighter. Her fingers brushed my face, ice cold, sending a jolt of panic through my entire body. You never leave. Her voice cracked, broken, like she was choking on her own words. And that's when I saw it. Behind her, in the shadows, something was moving. Something alive. Something that wasn't human. I tried to scream, but the words wouldn't come. My body was paralyzed with fear. And then everything went dark. I don't know how long I stood there in the darkness. Time didn't feel real anymore. It was like I had been trapped in this place for years, or maybe for only a few seconds. My heart pounded in my chest, and the silence around me was deafening. There was no sound, no light, only the cold, suffocating dark that pressed in from every direction. I tried to move, but my body was frozen, like it didn't belong to me anymore. I could feel the weight of her presence. She was still there, in the room with me. I could feel her cold eyes on me, even though I couldn't see her. The air smelled stale, like old dust and decay, and the walls felt as though they were closing in, inch by inch. The space around me grew tighter, and with every breath, the air grew heavier. Catherine, her voice. It slithered through the darkness, wrapping around my mind like a vine, squeezing tighter with every passing second. It was coming from all directions now, not just from behind me, but all around me. I wanted to scream. I wanted to call for help, but the words wouldn't come. My mouth was dry, my throat tight. I tried to push through it, but something inside me was holding me back. Something in the room didn't want me to leave. I stumbled forward, my hands outstretched, trying to find anything to ground me, but there was nothing. The room had no boundaries. The walls felt endless, stretching out farther than I could see, like a void that swallowed everything in its path. You'll never leave. Her voice was softer now, almost a whisper, like she was standing right next to me. I could feel her cold, empty presence, her breath against my skin, the icy chill that seeped into my bones. It was like she was part of the room, part of the very darkness that surrounded me. I gasped for air, my chest tight, as if the room itself was choking me. I reached for my phone again, my hands shaking, and when I turned it on, the screen flickered to life, but it wasn't my home screen. It was a picture. A picture of the hotel, of room 302. But this time, it was different. The room in the photo was empty, but the mirror on the wall was intact. There were no cracks, no broken glass. And then, in the reflection, I saw her face pale, emotionless, staring back at me from the mirror. Her eyes were empty, like black holes, but they were fixed on me, unblinking. I slammed the phone down, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The reflection was real. She was real. She wasn't just in the room. She was everywhere. I backed away, my head spinning, my vision blurring. But then I felt it, the cold air, the weight of her presence growing stronger. She was closer now. I turned, my feet stumbling beneath me as I desperately tried to find the door. But it wasn't there. The door I had come through. The door was gone. In its place, there was only a wall of blackness, a void that seemed to stretch on forever, like the room had swallowed the door whole. I reached out, my hand trembling as I tried to touch the wall, but my fingers passed right through it, like the room was made of nothing. I turned around, and that's when I saw it, a figure, standing in the center of the room. It was a man. A tall, thin figure, draped in shadow, his face obscured by darkness. I could feel his gaze on me, like he was studying me, waiting for something. You shouldn't be here. His voice was deep, low, but somehow familiar. I couldn't place it. It felt wrong. I took a step back, my heart racing. You're part of the hotel now. The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. The room felt colder, and I could feel the darkness closing in, pushing me toward the figure in the center. I didn't want to go to him. I didn't want to be near him, but something was pulling me forward, dragging me closer against my will. The floor beneath my feet seemed to shift with every step, like the room itself was alive, pulling me toward him. She was the first. The figure's voice echoed in the room, and the shadows around him seemed to grow thicker, darker, as if they were alive. The walls were closing in even tighter now, pressing down on me. I couldn't breathe, I couldn't think, and now, you're next. He took a step forward, and with it, the room seemed to collapse in on itself. The air grew colder, and my vision began to blur, the darkness eating away at everything around me. I stumbled, falling to my knees as the world spun out of control. The woman's face flashed in front of me, her eyes wide, her mouth twisted into a smile that was far too wide for any human face. The shadows around her moved, swirling, merging into one. And then, I saw it. In the center of the room on the floor was a shape. It was a body. A body that was still, lifeless, but so familiar. I leaned forward, my heart hammering in my chest, and I saw it. It was me. The body on the floor was mine, but I wasn't dead. Not yet. I gasped for air, scrambling back my mind. Reeling. I was trapped in this hotel. Trapped in room 302, trapped with her, with him. You'll never leave. The voice echoed in my mind as the shadows closed in around me, and I realized then that this wasn't just a nightmare. This was my reality. I could feel my heart beating in my throat, every thud echoing in the hollow of my chest. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. The room was suffocating me, every inch of space closing in, pressing harder, like it was trying to crush me. The shadows, they weren't just dark. They were alive. They were moving, swirling around me like something out of a nightmare, twisting, tightening, almost feeding off my fear. I could feel their cold fingers brushing against my skin, creeping over my arms, my face, pulling me into the dark, but I couldn't let them take me. I couldn't let them win. I pushed myself up from the floor, my legs shaking, my hands trembling as I reached for anything to hold on to. The air around me felt thick, suffocating, like I was waiting. Through water. The walls no, the room was alive, breathing, shifting with every step I took. Every sound I made echoed like a scream lost in the void. You can't run. There's nowhere left to go. Her voice. The woman's voice. It was everywhere now, flooding the room, seeping into my mind like poison. It made my skin crawl, the way it wrapped around me, squeezing tighter, telling me that there was no escape, that this was my fate. I spun around, desperate for something, anything. But the room 302 was no longer what it had been. It wasn't just a hotel room anymore. It was a prison. A living, breathing entity that held me captive, that fed off my fear, that thrived on my panic. The walls seemed to pulse with a life of their own, and the darkness was so thick, I could almost feel it pressing against me, pushing me down, drowning me in it. I had to get out. I had to. I looked to the corner of the room where I had seen the figure, the man, the shadow. He wasn't there anymore, but I could feel him. He was watching me. I could sense him in the air, just out of sight, just beyond reach. You're part of this now, his voice. Low, deep, like it was carved into the very fabric of the room. I turned to look at the mirror, the cracked mirror, the one that had shown the woman before. I had to look. I had to see what it would show me now. I didn't want to. But my feet carried me there, step by step, against my will. When I reached the mirror, I didn't see my reflection, at least, not entirely. I saw her first, the woman. Standing in the reflection, her face twisted in that same grotesque smile. Her hollow eyes staring straight at me. But she wasn't the only one in the reflection. There was someone else. A figure. A man. It was the man from before the shadow. But this time, he wasn't standing in the corner. He was right behind me. I could feel him, like he was breathing down my neck, his presence so suffocating, I couldn't breathe. You've seen the truth. His voice was louder now, echoing through the room. I could hear his footsteps, heavy and deliberate. As he took one step closer, I didn't move. My body wouldn't let me in the reflection. The woman's smile grew wider. Her teeth, sharp and yellow, gleamed as she moved toward me, her cold fingers reaching out from the mirror. Her hand passed through the glass like it was made of smoke, and I felt the cold, icy touch of her fingers on my skin. You're ours now, I wanted to scream, to pull away. But I couldn't. Her fingers, those cold, deathly fingers, gripped my arm, pulling me forward, dragging me toward the mirror. I struggled, but it felt like fighting against a tidal wave. My body was heavy, too heavy. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I could feel myself being pulled into the glass, into the reflection. And then, I saw it. The room behind me. It wasn't just a hotel room. It was another world. The mirror had become a window into something darker, something twisted. It was as though the very fabric of reality had been torn apart, and through that tear, I could see a world of endless darkness, a place where shadows had formed, where they lived, where they fed. And the woman wasn't just a ghost. She wasn't just a victim of this place. She was part of it. She had always been part of it. And now I was too. I couldn't escape. I couldn't wake up. You can never leave. The words rang in my head, louder now, drowning everything else out. I was pulled closer and closer to the mirror until I felt my body melt into the glass. My skin, my bones, my very essence seemed to vanish, consumed by the dark. And then, the world shifted. I was no longer in the hotel. I was no longer in room 302. I was somewhere else. Somewhere I couldn't escape. I woke up, or at least I think I did. The first thing I noticed was the cold. It was unlike any cold I'd ever felt. It wasn't just the biting chill of air, but something deeper, something colder in the bones. It sank into me, filled me up, wrapped around me like a shroud. I felt it in my fingertips, in my teeth, even in the blood that pulsed through my veins. But I couldn't move. I couldn't open my eyes. The darkness pressed against me, holding me in place as if it were alive, suffocating me with its weight. I tried to scream, to call out, but my mouth wouldn't open. It was as if something was blocking me, stopping me from making a sound. The silence around me was absolute, suffocating. There was nothing. No light, no sound, just the oppressive weight of nothingness. I didn't know how long I lay there. Trapped in the dark, it felt like days, weeks, years even. Time had no meaning here. It was like I was suspended between two worlds, neither here nor there, lost in a place that didn't belong to the living or the dead. Then, I felt it. A touch. Cold, but not like before. This touch was wrong. It was a touch that made my skin crawl, like something that shouldn't exist, something that shouldn't be able to feel, was reaching out to me. I couldn't move, couldn't fight it. I could only feel it. It wasn't a hand, not like any human hand. It was thinner, longer, too many fingers. I tried to breathe, to force air into my lungs, but the coldness in the air was so thick, I felt like I was choking. I gasped, trying to suck in enough oxygen to move, to fight back. But the more I struggled, the tighter the grip on me became. I felt the coldness move through me like a wave, sinking deeper into my chest, my throat, my heart. You're mine now, the voice. It wasn't her this time. It wasn't the woman. It was him, the shadow. His voice was smooth, like velvet, but there was an edge to it, a cruel, predatory edge that made my skin crawl. It was the voice of someone who had seen too much, someone who had been trapped in this darkness for far longer than I had, someone who had become one with it. You shouldn't have come. His words echoed, reverberating through the void, shaking me to my core. I couldn't see him. I couldn't feel him physically anymore, but I knew he was there, somewhere in the dark. His presence filled the air around me, pressing in on all sides, suffocating me. I couldn't speak. I couldn't even move. It was as if my entire being had been paralyzed, locked in place, unable to escape whatever fate awaited me here. Then, I heard it, a faint scratching sound like nails dragging against glass. A soft, eerie sound that sent chills down my spine. It was coming from behind me, and despite every part of me screaming not to turn around, I did. What I saw, or rather what I didn't see, made my blood run cold. The dark wasn't empty. It wasn't a void. There were shapes, shifting, moving in the blackness. Figures, too many of them. I could see their outlines, their shapes, but they weren't human. They were twisted, grotesque. I could see their eyes glowing faintly in the dark, reflecting some unnatural light. They were watching me. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't escape. I was locked in place, a prisoner in this other world. Then, in the distance, I saw her, the woman. She was standing there in the middle of the dark, her pale face illuminated by a sickly flickering light that seemed to come from nowhere. Her eyes, those dark, empty sockets, were staring directly at me. Her mouth twisted into that same smile, but this time it was different. It wasn't just a smile. It was hunger. Pure, unfiltered hunger. I could feel it, her desire, her need to claim me, to pull me into whatever nightmare she had become. Her fingers twitched, and I could hear the whisper of her voice, like wind brushing through the trees, carrying with it the weight of ages. You can never leave. You're one of us now. The words were like a chant, a curse. something that dug into my soul, anchoring me to this place. And then the void began to change. The shadows started to move in on me, swirling like storm clouds, twisting into shapes I couldn't comprehend. The walls, they were closing in, slowly, pushing me toward her, toward the center of the room. The cold intensified, turning into a freezing, biting wind that seemed to come from nowhere. And I realized something. Something horrible. The room 302, wasn't just a room anymore. It was a prison, a trap, a place designed to hold people. Like me, people who entered and never left. I had become part of this place. I had become part of the hotel. I was never going to leave. Welcome to your new home. And with that, everything went black again. The last thing I heard was the sound of her laughter, echoing through the darkness, and the knowledge that there would never be an end. There would only be the shadows, and me forever, I don't know how. Long it was before I opened my eyes again. Time didn't make sense in that place. There was no day or night, no beginning or end. Just an endless loop of cold and darkness, suffocating everything around me. But when I did open my eyes, it was different. The shadows were gone. For a moment, I thought I was free. I thought I was awake, back in the real world. The floor beneath me was solid, not cold and shifting. The air, though still heavy, wasn't as suffocating. I took a shaky breath and pushed myself up, my body trembling with exhaustion and fear. But as I stood, my legs weak beneath me, I realized I was no longer in the void. I was back in room 302, but this was not the room I had entered. This was worse. The walls were cracked, the paint peeling in jagged strips, revealing raw, decaying wood beneath. The mirror, once shattered, was now whole again, but it wasn't the same. It was darker, reflecting nothing but emptiness. A deep, consuming blackness that stretched on forever. And there was something else. A feeling in the air, something wrong, like the room was alive. And then I saw her on the bed. A figure. It wasn't her. It wasn't the woman. It wasn't the man. It was me. My reflection. Or at least it looked like me, but it wasn't. I could see the difference. The figure lying on the bed was still lifeless. The skin pale and cold, the eyes wide open but unseeing, empty like those of the woman. The same hollow stare, the same twisted, unsettling expression. It was me, but not me. I took a step back, my heart racing, my breath shallow. The air felt thicker now, and I realized with horror that the room was alive. It was feeding on me, feeding on my fear, on my confusion, on the terror that I couldn't escape. You're already here. Her voice, cold and soft, echoed through the room, and for a moment, I couldn't tell if it was coming from inside my head or from the walls themselves. It was like the room itself was speaking, as if it had a voice, a mind of its own. You're just like us now. You belong to the hotel. I wanted to run. I wanted to scream, but I was frozen. I couldn't move, couldn't make a sound. It was as if the room had trapped me again, like I had never left, like I had only been dreaming, if this could even be called a dream. I took another step toward the bed, compelled, as if something was pulling me closer against my will. The figure on the bed stared at me, its eyes wide open, but I could feel no life behind them. It was an empty shell, a hollow thing. I reached out with trembling hands, and when my fingers brushed against the cold, lifeless skin, a jolt of electricity shot through my body, freezing me in place. Suddenly, the room shifted. The walls twisted and groaned as though they were coming alive. The mirror started to ripple, like water disturbed by a stone. I could see someone moving inside. The reflection. It was her, the woman. Her face appeared in the mirror, her mouth opening, and then, to my horror, her face began to stretch, distorting, becoming more grotesque. Her eyes, those dark, hollow eyes, glowed in the reflection. Her mouth twisted wider, impossibly wide. as if she was opening her mouth to scream. To eat, you belong to me. The voice was deafening now, echoing through the room, and the air grew colder with every word. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. It felt like the room was closing in on me, pushing me, pulling me toward the mirror, toward her, toward whatever this place had become. I tried to turn away. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. My body felt like it was made of stone, like I had been carved into the very walls of this place. Then, the figure on the bed started to move. Slowly at first, but then faster, jerking its limbs unnaturally. Its head snapped to the side, its eyes locking with mine. And then it smiled. A twisted, grotesque smile. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know what to believe. Was this the end? Had I truly crossed over into whatever this place was? Had I become the next soul trapped in room 302? You will never leave. The voice rang in my ears again, louder, more insistent, as if the room itself was closing in on me. The walls were pressing closer, the air growing colder and more suffocating. The figure on the bed slowly sat up, its movements jerky, like a puppet being pulled by invisible strings. It looked at me with those hollow, empty eyes, and then it spoke in that same low, guttural voice. You'll be part of the hotel. You'll stay here, forever. I couldn't think anymore. The darkness was swallowing me whole, and then everything went black again. When I came to, I wasn't sure if I was awake or still trapped in whatever nightmare this was. The room was cold, but there was a strange warmth, a warmth that made my skin crawl, like it wasn't meant to be there. I tried to sit up, but the weight of the darkness pressed against me, forcing me to stay still. I couldn't move. I couldn't think. The air was thick with something I couldn't describe, like the room itself was breathing, like it was alive. I could hear faint whispers, not from any one person, but from everywhere. They were soft, like the rustling of leaves, like the murmur of voices long lost in the wind. But the words, they were familiar. Don't fight it. You're part of us. There's no way out. I tried to focus, to ignore the chilling voices that swirled around me. But then, my eyes caught something in the corner of the room. A shadow. A figure. It wasn't the woman. It wasn't the man. It was me. I stared at the figure, my heart pounding. It was standing in the corner, still and silent. It didn't move, but its eyes were locked on me, hollow and endless, like black pits that pulled at my soul. I could feel it watching me, waiting for me to do something, anything, but I couldn't. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. You don't have a choice. The voice again. It was closer now, colder, like it was coming from inside me. My heart raced, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't force my body to move. It was as if I were frozen in place, a spectator in my own nightmare. I looked at the figure again, and that's when I saw it. The figure was changing, slowly at first, but then, more rapidly, like the darkness around it was consuming it. Its skin rippled and shifted, like liquid moving beneath the surface. I saw the outline of its features change, morphing into something darker, something more terrifying. Its arms grew longer, its fingers twisting and contorting in ways that shouldn't have been possible. And then I saw its mouth dotted open, impossibly wide, and there just beneath the surface was a smile. A twisted, jagged grin that stretched too far across its face. Its teeth sharp and yellowed, like something from a nightmare, something that shouldn't exist. I felt my pulse quicken. I couldn't look away. The figure, the shadow, whatever, it was pulling me in, drawing me closer. It felt like it was reaching out for me, its dark tendrils crawling toward me, wrapping around my thoughts, my mind. I could hear its voice again, but this time it wasn't a whisper. It was a roar. You're mine now, forever. The darkness swirled around me, pressing in on all sides. I could feel it closing in, wrapping around me like a suffocating blanket. But I couldn't break free. The more I tried to fight it, the tighter it held me. My body trembled, my thoughts scattered, but the figure was always there looming, watching, waiting. Suddenly, I was back at the bed, the figure on the bed, the lifeless cold version of me was sitting up again. But this time, it wasn't still. It was moving slowly, its head twisted in unnatural angles, its eyes wide, unblinking, staring at me, seeing through me, seeing into me. It smiled, that same horrifying wide grin, and then it spoke, its voice a low, guttural hiss. "You're not real, you're just a shadow now." I didn't understand. I couldn't comprehend what was happening, but I felt it. I felt the cold, the weight, the presence of something ancient, something older than the room itself, something that had been waiting for me, waiting for all of us. The whispers grew louder, no longer soft, no longer distant. They were all around, me in my ears and my mind. They were the voices of the lost souls who had come before me, trapped in this place for eternity. I could feel them, could hear them calling out to me, begging me to understand. "You are part of this now. We're all part of this. You'll never leave." I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. My voice was gone, just like my ability to fight, to break free. And then, it happened. The bed, the entire room shifted. The walls began to twist and warp, like they were folding in on themselves. The ceiling cracked, splitting open, revealing a sky that was as black as the shadows in the room. It was no longer a hotel room. It was something else, something otherworldly. The figure, my reflection, stood up, its head twitching erratically. It took a step toward me, its eyes locked onto mine, its smile wide, stretching impossibly far across its face. "It's your turn now." The last thing I saw was its hand, too long, too thin, reaching for me. And then, everything went black. I was gone. I couldn't breathe. My lungs were full of nothing but a suffocating void. There was no air here, no light, no escape. Just the endless stretch of darkness that seemed to consume everything around me. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. My body wouldn't move. It was as if I was suspended in time, trapped in a place that had no beginning or end. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know if I was dead or alive. The last thing I remembered, before the darkness swallowed me whole, was the figure's hand reaching out for me. But I didn't know if it had touched me, if it had dragged me into whatever twisted place this was, or if I had simply fallen into the abyss on my own. Now, I was here, wherever here was. The cold was unbearable. It gnawed at my skin, sinking into my bones. But somehow, it wasn't enough to freeze me. It wasn't enough to stop me from feeling the weight of them. I could feel them, watching me. All around me. The shadows. I don't know how I knew, but I could sense their presence. Their eyes, hundreds of them, pierced the darkness, staring at me from every direction. I could hear their breathing, slow and deliberate, like they were waiting for something. Like they were waiting for me. I fought against the paralysis that gripped my body, willing my limbs to move. But nothing. I was still trapped. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. I was just stuck. And then I felt it. A cold breath against the back of my neck. I froze. My body went completely rigid. It was the same cold I had felt before. The same icy fingers that had touched me in room 302. Only now it was closer. I didn't dare turn around. I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to know who or what was standing behind me, breathing so close that I could almost feel its presence crawl into my skin. But I had no choice. Slowly, agonizingly slow, I turned my head, and there. It was the figure, the woman. She was standing right behind me. Her face twisted into that same grotesque, hollow smile. But it was worse now. Her face was more decayed. Her skin was peeling away in places, revealing raw, blackened flesh beneath. Her eyes were wide, staring into mine, but they weren't empty anymore. They were full of something dark, something ancient. You're one of us now. Her voice was low, soft, almost like a lullaby, but there was nothing comforting about it. It was cold, dead. I wanted to run. I wanted to escape. But I couldn't. I was frozen in place, as if my very will to fight had been drained. Away, you belong to the hotel. The words echoed in my mind, like a curse that had been cast upon me. She stepped forward, and I felt the room close in around me, like the walls were tightening, pressing in, suffocating me from all sides. The darkness thickened, became more oppressive, more alive. I felt her hand on my shoulder. I should have screamed. I should have fought, but I couldn't. I couldn't move. She leaned in close, so close that I could feel her breath on my face, cold and foul. This is your home now. And then I saw it. The room, the walls, the shadows. Everything started to shift again. The room was no longer a hotel room. It was something else. It was alive. The walls pulsated, breathing in and out like they had a heartbeat of their own. The air felt thick, like the room itself was alive, growing, consuming. I could feel the floor beneath me change, shifting, as if the room was growing around me, pulling me into it, wrapping me in its dark embrace. You'll never leave. Whispers echoed through the room again, louder now, so loud that they were deafening. I couldn't think. I couldn't focus on anything but the sound of the walls, the sound of the whispers, the sound of them, the lost souls, the ones who had come before me. You're part of us. I turned my head again, desperate to find something to hold on to, something to ground me. But I didn't see the woman anymore. I saw him, the man, the shadow. His figure was massive, looming over me, his black eyes locked onto mine. I could feel the coldness radiating from him, like the very air around him had turned to ice. He stepped forward, his long fingers reaching out, his smile stretching wider, impossibly wide. You can't escape. There is no way out. The words echoed in my ears, vibrating through my skull, and I couldn't fight it anymore. I couldn't fight him. I couldn't fight this place. I was already gone. And then, everything snapped out. The walls closed in. The shadows grew darker, thicker, until the light was completely swallowed. I felt myself being pulled back into the dark, into the void. It was like falling through a never-ending tunnel, but this time, I wasn't alone. The shadows were with me. They were inside me. I was one of them now. There was no escape. No way out. And then, there was only darkness. I was aware of the darkness, not just the way it swallowed everything, but the way it was part of me, like a second skin. I could feel it, wrap around me, inside me, its cold fingers crawling into the cracks of my mind, my soul. The space between. My thoughts felt hollow, empty, as if something had been taken, and now I was just waiting for what? I didn't know. I tried to move, to push myself up from whatever was holding me, but it felt like the darkness itself was weighing me down. I could sense it, the pull of it, tugging at me, urging me to stay, to become a part of it. I could still hear the whispers. They were louder now, rushing in from every direction, like a storm of voices crashing together. You belong here. You'll never leave. We are all together now. I tried to ignore them, tried to focus on something, anything that would ground me, but there was nothing. Nothing but the suffocating blackness and the endless, unending pull. And then, I felt something, a tug, a sharp, painful pull in my chest, like my heart was being yanked from my body. I gasped, but there was no air. I couldn't breathe. The weight of whatever force was drawing me in was crushing me, stealing the life from me, piece by piece. I reached out, desperate to grab onto anything. But there was nothing but the shadows. I felt the cold again, the icy fingers on my skin. But this time, it wasn't just on my skin, it was inside me, twisting through my veins, through my heart. It was like I was being torn apart from the inside out. I could feel myself unraveling, becoming nothing. You are nothing now. The voice was familiar, but I couldn't place it. The man? The woman? No, this voice was different. It was older, older than the hotel, older than the shadows, older than everything. You're mine now. I wanted to scream. I wanted to fight it, but I couldn't. The shadows were taking over, and there was nothing left of me to fight. Then, the pressure released. The tugging stopped. I was free for a moment. I thought I had escaped. Maybe I was awake, but when I opened my eyes, I was still there, still in the room. Still in room 302. I wasn't alone anymore. I looked around, and there they were, the figures. Hundreds of them, no thousands. Shapes in silhouettes, standing in the corners of the room, their eyes glowing, reflecting nothing but emptiness. Their faces were twisted, contorted into horrible, empty smiles. I could feel them. They were moving, slowly, silent, watching me. I had seen them before, the souls who were trapped here, the ones who never left. They were all around me now, closing in, crowding the space, and they were waiting for me to join them. I couldn't escape them. I couldn't escape this place. You're just like us now. You'll stay here forever. The voices blended together, whispering, chanting. The darkness was thickening, wrapping around me once more, like it was consuming me, pulling me deeper into the abyss. But then I saw something. A light. It was faint at first, just a flicker in the corner of the room. But it grew, slowly, steadily, like the room was giving birth to it, like the light was trying to push back against the darkness. I blinked, unsure if it was real. The shadows seemed to move away from the light, as if they feared it. They recoiled, their forms twisting, distorting as they shrank back. The light grew stronger, brighter, and for a split second, I thought maybe this was it. Maybe this was my way out. But then I saw her, the woman, the one who had trapped me here. She stepped out of the shadows, her face twisted into that same cold, hungry smile. But this time, she wasn't just watching me. She was coming for me. You can't escape. Her voice was low, a guttural growl, like a predator stalking its prey. You're mine. The light flickered again, and then it went out. Just like that, I was back in the darkness. But now, I knew I wasn't alone anymore. I had become one of them. I could feel it. The darkness. The weight. The suffocating pressure of it all. I couldn't escape it. No matter how hard I tried, no matter how much I begged for release, the shadows kept closing in, pushing me deeper into their embrace. I wasn't alone. I was part of them now. Part of the hotel. Part of the curse. The figures. The souls trapped here with me, ... They weren't just watching anymore. They were moving closer. I could hear their footsteps, slow and deliberate, dragging across the floor. They were circling me, surrounding me. And their faces, those hollow eyes, that twisted smile, they were all the same. They had become one with the darkness, just as I had. I tried to move, to break free from the circle they had formed around me. But I couldn't. It was like I was stuck, my legs frozen in place, my body refusing to obey. I was paralyzed. You're one of us now. The voice came from all around me, a chorus of whispers, soft and haunting. It echoed in my mind, digging into my thoughts like nails scraping against a chalkboard. We are the lost. We are the forgotten. And now so are you. I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to accept that I was part of this, that I was no longer human, but the truth was undeniable. I could feel it in my bones, in my very soul. I had crossed the line. There was no coming back, and then I felt it again, that cold breath, that icy chill against my neck. It was the same as before, but this time, it didn't leave, it lingered. I could feel the presence behind me, heavy and suffocating. I didn't have to turn around to know what it was, the woman. She was there, standing just behind me, watching me. Her breath was slow and deliberate, like she was savoring the moment. I didn't want to look. I didn't want to see her face, that twisted, decaying grin. But I couldn't stop myself. I turned. She was standing there, her face inches from mine. Her skin was even more rotted now, peeling away in chunks, revealing the raw, blackened flesh beneath. Her eyes were wide, empty, hollow, like deep pits that pulled you in, took you in, until there was nothing left. You belong to me now. Her voice was a whisper, but it was sharp, cutting through the silence like a blade. I could feel the words in my chest, in my heart. She was right. I belonged to her now, to this place, to the hotel. I wanted to scream, to push her away, but I couldn't. My body wouldn't obey. I was frozen in place, unable to move, unable to escape. I could only stand there, helpless, as she drew closer. She reached out, her hand cold and lifeless, and placed it on my cheek. The contact sent a wave of freezing cold through me, and for a moment, everything went black. I was back in room 302. The room looked different now, more decayed. The walls were peeling, the furniture warped and broken, as if it had been abandoned. For years, the mirror was still shattered, but this time, it wasn't just cracked. It was shattered into 1,000 pieces, each one reflecting a different version of me, 1,000 versions of myself, all staring back at me with those empty eyes. I was surrounded by them, the souls, the figures. They were in the room with me, pressing closer, their eyes fixed on me, their twisted smiles widening as they closed in. I could feel them. I could hear them breathing, whispering, moving. I was no longer human. I was one of them. The voice came again, softer this time, but just as menacing. You're part of the hotel. I wanted to scream. I wanted to fight back, to tear myself away from this nightmare. But it was too late. The darkness had consumed me. There was no escape. No way out. I was trapped forever. Time had lost all meaning. I couldn't tell if days had passed, hours, or mere moments. The shadows had become my world. The whispers my constant companions. I couldn't escape them. Couldn't escape the place that had swallowed me whole. Room 302 had become my prison, my reality, my home. The souls were everywhere. They moved in the corners, in the shadows, but they were always there, watching. Some of them had faces. Others were just dark figures, silhouettes. But their eyes, they were all the same, hollow, empty. I had become one of them. I didn't want to admit it, didn't want to face the truth. But every time I looked at my reflection in the broken shards of the mirror, I saw it. I saw her. I saw me. I was no longer human. I was a part of the hotel, a part of its curse. You belong to the hotel now. Her voice echoed through my mind again, soft and haunting. I could feel her presence behind me, like a shadow that never left. She was always watching, always waiting. I wasn't the only one here. There were others. Others who had come before me, trapped in this place, lost in the darkness. Some of them were gone, their faces fading away, their souls consumed by the hotel. Others, like me, had become part of the shadows, part of the curse. But there was something different now, something that I hadn't felt before. A presence. I wasn't alone anymore. The woman, the figure, was standing in front of me again, her twisted, decayed face just inches from mine. I could feel the cold of her touch, the weight of her presence. She wasn't smiling anymore. Her face was expressionless, like she was waiting, watching. I tried to speak, but my voice was gone. I couldn't scream. I couldn't move. She stepped closer. Her eyes locked onto mine, and I saw it, the emptiness. The same emptiness that had swallowed so many before me. The same emptiness that I had become. You're one of us now. I didn't know if it was her, or if it was just the darkness speaking through her. But the words rang true. I was part of the hotel, and now I would never leave. The room was changing. The walls were breathing again, pulsing like they had a heartbeat of their own. The air was thick, heavy with the weight of the souls that had been trapped here before me. The shadows were thicker now, darker, like they were moving, shifting. Like the hotel itself was alive. I felt it in my bones. The hunger, the need, the pull. We are the lost. The voices whispered all around me, soft and low. We are the forgotten. And now you are too. I could hear them. I could feel them moving closer, crowding the room. The shadows, the figures, the souls, they were all around me, pressing in, their eyes fixed on me, their twisted smiles widening. I wasn't alone. I was one of them now. The hotel had claimed me. And there was no escape. The light in the room flickered, dimmed, and then went out completely. The darkness swallowed everything, and I knew this was it. There was no way out. No escape from room 302. No escape from the hotel. And I would stay here with them forever.